Hi, my name is Noel Davis, and today we're going to do an update on our pine shaving bin. Now, it's been 2 weeks since our last update. I had the bags pushed off to the side, so it looks like it's dried out on top. And we're going to see how it looks and see if it needs any food and how it's doing. I know that these pine shavings have been going now since basically the beginning of the year, and we're in August, and they still look very similar to when I added them, I have to say. I mean, they're really not breaking down, which is good in a way if you're trying to add a lot of food to these systems. It's great to have a bedding that you don't have to constantly replenish. But at the same time, if you're trying to move through bedding, this could be a little bit concerning if you're really hoping that these worms will kind of chew through this material and you get castings at the end. So it depends on your goal at the end here. If you really want to go, food production is your goal, to just go through food, this could work pretty well because you could probably even filter this out at the end and still come up with all your pine shaving and put them right back in and minimize the bedding you need to buy. But again, it's gonna take a lot to sort these out if there are big shavings in there. So let's take a look and see how it's going, and we'll see how long it takes for these to break down. Right now, as I said, we're 8 months in, and they're still there, and they look pretty resilient. So let's go take a look. All right, first thing I want to point out, the 8-9 right there, and today is the 23rd, so that'd be 14 days, if I have my math right. So let's pull this out here. As you can see, it's wet on this side over here, and it is wet on that side over there. So that's what happens with where you leave those bags. It's still going to be wet. But the shavings in the middle, they look very, very dry. There's actually a worm over here. Looks like that was trying to peek away, but look at this. This is very dry in the center. Let's just see how far down that moisture starts. So it's not too far down. I just had to scrape off a little bit here. I mean, really maybe 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch maybe total to get down to that area that's more moist. Let's just dig down in here where the food would have been last time, and look at that, we've got our worms in here. So you can see right in here, we've got a little bit of food left over right there. That's avocado, I think, that chunk right there. Got some worms in there. They're looking good. But again, this material just is not breaking down. I really thought that this would eventually start to soften up, and it really isn't, especially with less moisture. It feels a little bit rougher, the texture of it. It's still soft, but it's definitely, that's a little bit more rough than the other stuff. So might want to keep this a little bit more moist than normal just to make sure that the worms are okay with it. As we dig down in here, moisture is actually, with the lid being off, it's drying out very quickly. Let me shift this down just a little bit. There we go. But you can see in here, there are some worms. I don't know how they're doing in here really. I don't know, I'm hoping that this material isn't hurting them. I mean, it doesn't feel too rough, especially when it's wet. But it definitely is not nearly as soft as castings or cardboard would be, or the leaf litter that they'd probably live in if they were in the wild. So we're just going to dig all this up here. It was really wet last time. Now it feels pretty dry comparatively. It dried out very quick. Actually, there's a ton of worms in that little handful there. It's just till it flaked apart, you couldn't really see them. Let's just see over here. Not seeing many cocoons, sorry. Cocoons in here. No odor though, which is a good sign. But I mean, there are some worms in here. They just don't seem quite as, I don't see any of the baby worms that I've seen in some of my other bins, really. I do see a little bit of squirming in there, but it's not nearly as much. And it definitely feels quite a bit dry compared to what it was. This material dried out a lot faster in 2 weeks than some of my other systems have, especially when they've been overly wet. But you can see right here, I mean, like, you can see that material, very dry. It's almost back to, like, if you look at this piece right there, it's almost back to its original shaving form, it looks like, with just a little bit of discoloring. But overall, this is it does flake apart easily, means air can get down in there very easily. I mean, even this section over here that was underneath that bag, you can easily get to the material. It just flakes right apart. Let's just see here. Not seeing nearly as many worms. They seem really spread out. Wait a minute. I did find a cocoon. Right there. I found one cocoon in this so far. So I think they're just hard to find because they sort of match in with this material. They really blend well. Now I'm going to have to keep a closer eye out for them, but this is the first one I've seen really in this material that when I've been looking every time that I would sort it or come through here and stir everything up. I just felt like there was a lot of stuff in this corner right there. It felt quite moist. There was a worm in there, but again, they were all spread out through the system. It looks like there's no real location that they're centered in. We're just going to put all this stuff back. We're going to mix it around. We're going to make this a fairly fast update here. We're going to add food, and we're going to add it right here to this center section. This is a little piece of avocado. We're going to put that off to the side so we can add that in there as well. Just add a little bit of shavings in the bottom there. There's another piece of food right there. I think this is a pit of some sort. I don't know what that is. It's got to be a pit of something, though. So we'll leave that in there. Probably an avocado pit, if I had to guess, that was in here. And we're going to add some food. So all the food I have, as I've said before, is frozen. We're going to add in, I have a ton of this stuff right now, this cantaloupe. This is actually from my garden. It went straight from being in my garden to me eating it as quickly as possible and then adding it to my bins, essentially, to recycle that nutrients back into the soil. So we're just going to add, it's probably a little over, maybe around half one of my small, not watermelon, sorry, cantaloupe, jeez. I was thinking about watermelon, but I meant cantaloupe. This is one of my cantaloupes from my garden. I did not have any watermelon this year. So, alright, one more piece like that. I did see that it looked like there was a lot of little dust in there from my crushed eggshells, but again, I'm going to add some more in here. I do like adding a lot of this stuff to my systems. I do find that grit is very important. For those that say that the worms only eat microbes, that is what their nourishment is from, but they do scrape up particles because all this, they would not be able to use their gizzards to eat this material. So with that, we're going to cover it up. We had our label in the center last time, right here. We're going to continue to do that. And I'm debating whether to cover this up. I'm worried about it's starting to really dry out. So I think we will. I think we're going to cover this up now. Fully as we were before. So I think we're going to go back to our full cover here. Let's just put this one underneath. Let's just turn this around like that. I think we're going to go back to our full covered system here with the way things are going. And this dried out a whole lot. I don't normally have covers like this quite this close on my bins. I normally like having a lid on it that's sort of separated, but I feel that this really does need it. It was really starting to dry out in there, and I'm just worried about it drying out too much, and then the worms will get harmed because they need that moisture to survive. So that's our update. As I said, it's been 2 weeks, so that's it for this. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a note down below.